All right. Welcome back to All Cars, y'all. I am John. It is time for another Motorweek retro review reaction. And this week, I can't believe I haven't done this already. The 1987 Dodge Dakota. Now, I've talked a lot about trucks on this channel and how big they've gotten, how expensive they've gotten, and many comments, many of you have said, man, I just want my Dakota again. This is a very influential truck, and I think it's seriously underappreciated outside of the owners who love it. I'm excited to watch this one, so come as always, grab your beverage of choice, sit back in your comfy chair, and let's take a trip back to 1987 and reminisce about, well, the first of its kind.
Motorweek is made possible by Lucas Oil and TireRack.com.
You're right about that. Thanks, Beth.
You're welcome, John.
Now we turn to Chrysler Corporation, which has gone through a rebirth of its own. And right here is Chrysler's newest nameplate, Dakota. It's a name that conjures up images of the great Northwest and its rough terrain. No doubt Chrysler wants us to think that their new downsized pickup is pretty tough. But you know, any new downsized truck better be more than just tough, since Jeep, Ford, and Chevy already have a strong hold on the American pickup market. To make it, the Dakota is going to need a piece of territory all its own. So just what is the Dakota's place in the ever-growing downsized pickup market? Well, according to Chrysler, this is the first true mid-size pickup.
You know what? I'm going to go back just a little bit here if I can do it. Man, that's a good-looking truck. There's a hint of Chevy right there where the hood turns down at the grill. That's very Chevy-esque to me. I just think this is a simple, handsome truck. And when I talk about, gosh, why don't we have affordable, small trucks again? You know, I'm not really talking about the Isuzu Pup. I am talking about the B2200. I am talking about the Nissan Hardbody, but I'm talking about this too. And I think this is pretty seriously underappreciated. I'm going to talk about its history a little bit more in a little bit, but I think it's pretty seriously underappreciated because there was the S10 and the Ranger, and there were the, CK1500s, and Dodge literally created a market in between. They found it and they saw it. And I think that's what Chrysler did so well in the 80s. A lot of flaws, but that's what they did so well, was say, well, why don't we just make something a little bit bigger? Well, now you fast forward and we've got these very large mid-sized trucks like the Ranger and the Colorado. You've got the huge monstrous ones, but nobody's looking at it and saying, hey, why don't we have something a little bit smaller? I mean, sure, we've got the Maverick and we've got that Santa Cruz, but I keep expecting there to be more. This is an excellent size, and I think it's a handsome, simple, it's a truck. And I love it. They could have gone really wrong with this. I want to say before we move on here, when you look at this front grille, and you see those lights, I can't help but think about the Plymouth Voyager and the Dodge Caravan when they started stacking lights. This could have gone very wrong very quickly. Chrysler stylists used some reserve when they designed this, and I think it really works.
True mid-size pickup, designed to appeal to both full-size and downsize pickup drivers. The Dakota sits lower and is narrower than its full-size relatives, but it's almost as long. The concept isn't really new, and a pickup still has to look like a pickup. But the Dakota's rounded front end and aircraft-type doors do give it a distinctive appearance. Black trim and mirrors add to the sporty look. Our Dakota LE's smooth two-tone paint job would be at home on any Detroit sedan. But some of that fancy trim on our truck was misaligned. The Dakota is the only...
Okay, that's very Chrysler from the from the 80s. But, the paint, it's interesting they mentioned that. Because that book right there, the Iacocca book, I never watched these in advance, right? This is a raw thoughts and responses. And I seem to remember in the Iacocca book, he was talking about the Dakota, and that they were so proud of it, and they were so proud of the paint that they did, that they really leveled up the painting they could do for this truck. And it was made on, if I remember correctly, it was made on the same assembly line as the full-size trucks. And during the, I guess the press release, the introduction to the truck, they were so proud of it, and the, I think the joints, the you know, they like roll a ball bearing down the body panels or something like that. And some reporter was like, yeah, you didn't put headrests on the back of the seat. Do you not care about the safety of the driver and the passenger smashing their head against the back window? I've always remembered that, because on the one hand, that's a really good point. You know, they didn't. You can see it in this picture right here. They didn't have headrests. And smashing your head against that back window is a legitimate concern in an accident. Why didn't Chrysler spend the $15 to do that? On the other hand, I'm not sure that was the place to do it. So I'm glad they mentioned the paint job, because I seem to remember in that book them bragging about the paint job on this thing.
Only so-called downsize pickup that can be ordered with a generous 8-foot bed. That means it can haul building supplies, but 4x8 sheets have to sit on top of the wheel wells. Payload capacity is 2,500 pounds, and that's equal to some of the full-size pickups. For those who don't need quite as much...
I'm not sure those two people should have been putting that in there, because I don't think they could quite figure out how to make it fit. But, you know, one of the comments I get all the time, and I've never really supported it until this moment, is people are like, look, I just want a truck with an 8-foot bed. And to me, when I hear that, what I have always thought of is, you know, the band Alabama, and they have a song called Dixieland Delight. And in that, they're driving a truck, and it's actually a quad cab with a huge bed on the back, as I recall. And to me, that's what I'm thinking of. I think of the full-size trucks with these ginormously long beds at the back, and nobody wants that anymore. Maybe a few contractors here and there, but nobody really does. You know, trucks have morphed into being luxury full-size SUVs with a bed. A little bit of a bed. So when I hear people say, I want an 8-foot bed, I imagine these monstrously long trucks. But here's a rationally sized truck with an 8-foot bed. And it doesn't look disproportionate at all. I dig this. I dig this a lot. I've always, you know, if I need to pick up 4x8 sheets of anything, I'm okay with a 6-foot bed, or a little bit less, something that hangs out a little bit once I put the tailgate down. But the proportions on this look just about perfect.
Much truck, a 6.5-foot cargo box is standard. Either way, the Dakota's tailgate is a heavy, solid unit with an easy-to-open latch, and it buttons up securely. The Dakota gets its power from either a standard 2.2-liter four-cylinder of K-car fame or an optional 3.9-liter V6, which is really a Chrysler V8 design with 2 cylinders lopped off. Our test vehicle had an automatic transmission and the optional V6. It provides good power, but has more engine vibration than expected.
You know, I'd like y'all's response here. I've heard criticism and compliments for the 4-cylinder from Chrysler. I've heard many people say, you know, hey, we had a K-car and it worked great, or the engine was horrible, you know, the head gasket leaked, whatever it was. This engine, I'll be honest with you, the 6-cylinder here, I don't know much about it. And I want to say, which one would you have? Let me know in the comments below. But everybody's going to pick the 6-cylinder. My question is, for those of you with experience in this truck, was the 4-cylinder that much worse? I know we're talking about it's going to be slower, it's not going to haul as much, it's going to be an underperformer. But in terms of actually holding together, was this based on the 8-cylinder? With 2 cylinders lopped off, as they said, is it that much better? It's always struck me as an extremely inefficient engine.
The engine compartment is laid out well. Access to spark plugs and fluid checks is excellent, though we would appreciate a spring to hold the hood open instead of a prop rod. The large doors and low sill make for easy entry and exit without the high climb up as in some full-size trucks. And as in those full-size pickups, there's room for 3 adults here. The interior is also well appointed and very car-like. There are convenient features such as a cup holder and a storage shelf above the glove box. With the LE trim package, you get a velour-covered bench seat with a folding armrest. It's comfortable but lacks lower back support. The gauge layout is logical, and the optional cluster holds all but a tachometer, although space is provided if Dodge decides to add one. We did have a problem with the outside mirrors since they have no inside adjustments. As for handling, the Dakota feels like a large passenger sedan with surprisingly minimal plow and body roll. Maybe that's because the Dakota borrows a lot of chassis components from Chrysler's rear-drive 4-doors. And the rear end is extremely stable even when empty. The power steering is properly boosted and fairly quick, making the Dakota very nimble for its size. Despite that, the Dakota isn't that easy to maneuver around town because of its overly wide turning circle of 45 feet. When it comes to accelerating...
Okay, before they move on, let's talk about all that. Interior, man, I really like it. It is basic. You know, this is 87. We have to remember that. And it is a truck. This is before trucks really started to become appreciated for more car-like amenities. Things like being able to move the mirror from inside. You know, the fake wood, but the seats look comfortable. The gauges were fine. Everything seemed to be fine. Not earth-shattering, amazing, life-changing, but fine. Once you set the mirrors, you don't need to change them again typically. You know, you're the only driver, right? And through the slalom there, it looked slow. Honestly, it's a truck. It leaned side to side. It moved along. It got where it looked safe. That's what I'm trying to say. Cut through all the BS. It looks safe. And I like what they said is it borrowed a lot of components, because I said I would talk about it later, and I'm going to talk about it now. When Dodge decided to do this was 87. They were successful, but they were still coming out of near death. And they saw the market here. And they're like, gosh, we need to do something. You know, let's try it. What can we literally cobble together? For as good a truck as this ended up being, they literally just pulled pieces from like the Dodge Ram, from the cars. Let's do this. They threw things together, and it turned out to be a really good truck. It's a great example of component engineering, honestly. Let's see what they say about how slow it is.
The 3.9-liter V6 and 3-speed automatic transmission pushed our Dakota through the quarter mile in 19.3 seconds at 71 miles per hour. 0 to 60 took 13 seconds flat. Not in the sports car class, but good for a truck of any size. Mileage ratings of 18 city and 21 highway were borne out in our 100-mile mixed driving loop, with a result of 20 miles per gallon.
So I would like to say, I am super curious, if this took 13 seconds, what would the 4-cylinder do? How glacially slow would that have been? And would it have paid off with truly better gas mileage?
Braking is also good, with moderate fade and no premature rear-end lockup thanks to a special brake proportioning valve. The front disc and rear drum combination stopped the Dakota in an average distance of 127 feet from 55 miles per hour. That's short for a pickup. So how does the Dakota stack up on our list of hits? We kind of like the idea of a truck that's smaller and easier to drive than a full-size pickup, but doesn't sacrifice a lot of cargo capacity. We also like the Dakota's sporty styling, nimble handling, and room for 3. Smaller things that Chrysler missed on include no inside adjusters for the mirrors and something besides a prop rod to keep the heavy hood up. The Dakota also needs more seat support and precise alignment for the exterior trim. In safety matters, pickups aren't required to meet the same standards as passenger cars. Even so, we think all vehicle front seats should have head restraints as standard, and the midsize Dakota doesn't. The Dakota's price is midsize too, from a base of $7,338 to $11,999 for our well-equipped LE.
Chrysler, right now, I will tell you, if you bring this truck back to America, give me a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty for $11,000, I will buy it. I'll pay cash. I'll just wear a helmet. Yes.
Overall, the Dakota is an excellent design that should not only appeal to both small and large pickup buyers, but to car owners looking for an easy-to-take utility model as well. That's the niche that Dodge is aiming for, and we think the Dakota hits the bullseye. But only time will tell if the public thinks so. So far, it's doing just fine for us. We've been driving this Dakota since early October, with fewer problems than we would have expected in an all-new design. So as our long-term test for this pickup approaches the halfway point, we like niching a ride in Dakota country.
And you can ride with us next time when we drive the updated Jeep Cherokee and the luxurious BMW L7. We'll see you then.
What the heck's the L7? Okay, now I've got to go look that up. Anyway, here's... This is a big one, guys. Here's my confession to you. I talk a lot on this channel about missing the small trucks, right? I talk about their fuel efficiency. I talk about their space efficiency. I talk about their reliability many times. And usually I'm thinking about the S10, the Ranger, the Mighty Max, the Pup, the B2000, 2200, the Nissan Hardbody. In fact, I did a retro review early on, probably 2 years ago now, of the small trucks. And watching this, dang, I think I've been talking about a Dakota the whole time. It's not perfect, right? Doesn't quite meet my needs in 2023. The engine doesn't strike me as great. The engine and transmission, they seem overly large and overly wasteful, and not fuel efficient, but not terribly powerful at the same time. I'd like a little bit more space behind the front seats. I'd like head restraints, honestly, And I don't need the 8-foot bed. All honesty, for what I'm going to do, I don't need the 8-foot bed. So probably an extended cab with a 6.5-foot bed. But when I think about the style, the comfort, what I want to use a truck for every day, I'm not thinking truly about the smallest of the small. It turns out I'm probably thinking about a Dakota. And I'm surprised because the early Dakotas here don't stand out for their style and their performance and anything else. And the later ones become really watered down. Either the interior becomes super cheap and plasticky, or it's the exterior with that kind of 3/4, 7/8 Dodge Ram 1500 styling. The later Dakotas never worked for me. They really didn't. They tried to take the same design language as what they were doing with the Dodge Ram, and it didn't work for me. In fact, I thought they were really ugly. Forgive me, fans of the Dakota. Even though it had a V8, which to me always signaled weakness. Hey, you've got a mid-sized truck. It's a little bit bigger than a compact, but you needed a V8 to get the same performance. The Dakota in the later generations never quite did it for me. But this one, watching this, man, this really resonated with me. It really did. I would absolutely own one of these right now and tootle around in it every single weekend. That's what I think about when I think about a small truck. I think about a Dodge Dakota. This was a good one, guys. I'm glad you're here. I hope you liked it, because, man, this one's exciting to me. Thanks for being here.